Are you a UK limited company director that's heard about the new ID checks that Companies House has introduced? If so, if you're worried about this, what we're going to do in this video is just break down what the requirements are and what you need to do to make sure you're compliant. So firstly, why are Companies House introducing ID checks? Before, you could be a company director and you could set up a company and you would not have to submit ID to Companies House. The problem with that, and it's probably an obvious problem, was that there is a large amount of fraud that can potentially creep in because Companies House don't really know who owns the companies that they've signed up for on Companies House. So by introducing ID checks, now everybody will need to actually state who they are and have their ID checked to be a company director, and also to set up any new companies as well. So who exactly does these ID checks apply to? Well, firstly, it is companies directors. So if you are a registered director on Companies House for a limited company, you will need to submit an ID check. The other criteria is for persons of significant control, or a PSC. And a PSC is typically somebody that has greater than 25% of the voting rights of a company or 25% of the shareholding of the company. So a little bit more complicated than that, but that's generally the criteria for PSCs. So if you're a director or a PSC, you will have to submit IDs to Companies House. And the third criteria, if you are doing any filing for Companies House as well, so if you're submitting accounts or doing any other types of filing or submitting forms to Companies House, then you will also need to be authorised and have your IDs checked before you can do that. So how do you go about the ID checks? Really, there's two methods. The first method is directly with Companies House. That if you Google Companies House ID checks, there's a link on there. If you click on that link, it will start taking you through the process to verify your identity. And to do that, you're going to need to upload a form of ID. A common one is a passport. So upload the details of your passport, and then they will ask you to do a short selfie to verify that it's you and the ID matches you, and then they'll potentially put that through. The second option you've got to verify your ID is to ask an authorised service provider to do it on your behalf. So a common one of this will be your accountant. Us as a firm, we are set up as authorised service providers, so we can do it on behalf of our clients. Typically, your accountant will charge you for this service, and the Companies House service is free. So we're actually saying to our clients, look, you may as well go to Companies House directly and provide your IDs directly, rather than coming through a third party, rather than coming through an accountant, because it's going to potentially cost you more money. So when does all this start? When do you need to have it all done by? So the 18th of November is the date that you can start putting your IDs on, and you will need to start producing your IDs when you submit your confirmation statement to Companies House. And your confirmation statement, this is an annual submission that every single UK limited company must submit. And when you do your confirmation statement now, it's going to ask you to submit the ID code that you get when you've done your ID check. And if you haven't got a code, then you won't be able to submit the confirmation statement. And then you basically have problems with your company. So you're going to need to do it by the time your confirmation statement is due. So a lot of people are misinterpreting the deadline as thinking it's the 18th of November and I have to have the ID check done by the 18th of November. It's not. It's when you need to submit your confirmation statement. So if your confirmation statement isn't due to, February 2026, then at that point you're going to have the code. So you're going to have done your ID checks by then, have got your codes, submit your codes with the confirmation statement, and then you will be compliant. So there's not this big rush to get it all done before the 18th of November. This is really kind of the start date, and then over the course of the next 12 months, you're going to have to do it when your confirmation statement becomes due. So what do you need to do now to make sure well, the first thing you need to do is just make sure that your ID on Companies House is consistent with the IDs that you're holding. We had a query from a lady the other day around her maiden name versus she had some details in her maiden name and some detailed in her married name. So I think the key thing to do now is just make sure that there is consistency between the ID that you've got, so the passport that you've got, and the name that you've got on Companies House, to make sure the two are consistent. And then, from this point, you can basically go in now, go to Companies House, and then carry out that ID check. It is actually a relatively straightforward process. Capture the code and then retain the code. The code stays with you for life forever. So once you've got it, make sure you make a note of it and keep that safe. And then when you submit your confirmation statement, or if your accountant is submitting your confirmation statement on your behalf, you will need to give them that code to submit that confirmation statement. Obviously, if you don't do the ID checks, then you won't be able to submit your confirmation statement, and that's going to end up, that's going to have detrimental impact on your company. Companies House take a very sort of stringent line. If you do not submit a confirmation statement, do not submit it on time, and ultimately it can lead to your companies being struck off, and it's also illegal not to have submitted a confirmation statement as well. So just make sure you're on top of this, because it's one of those things that you do need to do. You do need to take action to make sure you've got a code in place. Hopefully, if that's useful. If it has been useful, please like and subscribe to our channel. If we can be of any help, please get in touch.